Yo, TY, what's up? Josh again. Hope you guys are all doing well. That school's going well. Question: what's your favorite food? What's something that you absolutely love? So for me, like there are certain things that I can't get enough of. Like I love pizza. This is gonna be a hard message actually. Now that I think about it, it's gonna be a tough one. I love pizza. I love burritos. I love my favorite like snack is like a quesadilla. Just throw some cheese in a tortilla and melt it, and maybe some sauce. Oh yeah, I could do that all day. What are the things that like? What are things you love to eat? Go ahead and say something to each other real quick. You can even pause this and just like, what are some of the things that? What's your favorite foods? Chicken wings. I love chicken wings. I love sushi. Okay, I'm hungry. Um, it's like almost lunchtime, and I haven't really eaten breakfast, so I should stop talking about food. What are the things you love to eat? So I love I love all those things I said, but like today we're going to talk. We're in this series that Jesus. It's a series of I am, right, and it's like the things that God says who He is. And today we're going to look at the idea that Jesus says, "I am the bread of life. I am the bread of life." What does it mean when Jesus says, "I am the bread of life"? Like that's an interesting it's an interesting metaphor, right? It's an interesting way to say this is who I am. Now, right here, let's understand bread. Oh, so let me go before I go on. A lot of you know this, but let me just clarify. I try to eat gluten free, so I try not to eat any gluten. I have a little bit of an intolerance. It's not like a terrible, like I don't have an EpiPen if I have gluten. It's not that type of allergy, but it's an intolerance. So if I eat like a big old sandwich, I will not feel good in a couple of hours. So I try to stay away from all bread. This is a beautiful piece of white bread from Cobb's Bread here in Stanford, and they have like the best, most soft bread. Like, oh, so good. Toast this up, throw some butter, whatever. I don't know. But Jesus says, "I am the bread of life." What do we understand about bread? Well, think of all the things that we eat that have like bread in them, right? Like tortillas has wheat. It's really like wheat, like baked wheat. Like tortilla is my favorite food ever. Have it's like a type of bread. Every cuisine around the world has its own like bread like thing, right? In the Mediterranean, it's like they've got, what do they even call them? I don't even know. It's the wrap things, gyros or whatever. There's and then like right now, I just want to I gotta stop holding this bread. I want a sandwich from Rinaldi's so bad, but I can't because it's bread. But he says, "I'm the bread of life." But it's important for us to remember this. Okay, so he's talking. Jesus is speaking to a Jewish crowd, right? Like, and he's and actually in this passage in John 6, in this passage, you will see that Jesus, that they like actually are pursuing Jesus, right? Like they actually were looking for him, and so they go. This group of this Jewish crowd is looking for Jesus, and they get in a boat and they go off to go find Jesus, and they find him, and they're like, "Hey, there you are." And Jesus says, "Listen, you're here for me because I provided." If you read before this passage in John, like I provided food for you. That's why you're coming to find me. You're not really here for me. You just are here because I fed you. I filled your bellies. Jesus says, "But listen, I want to tell you something. I'm actually the bread of life. I'm the one that if you partake in me, I will sustain you." Now, bread, similar to today, although today you can totally get by without eating bread because I do, and yeah, there's gluten-free bread, but let's be real, okay? It's not bad, but it's certainly not like good gluten-full bread. But bread was a staple of their diet. Like it was such an important part of what they did to sustain themselves. It was such an important part of their diet. And Jesus says, "Listen, that thing that's really important to your diet, that thing, actually, that's me. I'm the bread of life." So how would they have heard that? What is it that they would have seen? What would they have heard? They would have heard, wait, you are saying, okay, so Jesus, you are saying you are the thing that sustains us. You are the thing You just drew a very parallel that, okay, he is the bread of life, and bread is an important part of our diets, of sustaining us, of keeping us alive. But not only that, let's rewind all the way back to when the Israelites. Remember, he is speaking to the people of Israel. Common in that moment, they lived in Israel. They were the Jewish people, and they go all the way back to the Israelites that were for 40 years wandering in the desert, right? And how did they eat? God daily provided for them manna, bread. Like, that was the way that they lived. That was what kept them alive, was this provision from God that was bread. So when Jesus says, "I'm the bread of life," not only are they like, "Oh, you're the bread of life. Oh, you're the thing that keeps us alive today," but also you're also making a parallel to the fact that you were that thing that kept our ancestors alive in the desert when they were roaming around, waiting for liberation, waiting for God to show them the promised land. And so this crowd listening to Jesus had to have thought, like, okay, so Jesus, you're saying that literally it's through you that life is provided. Remember when Jesus says that I came to give you life and life to the full? Well, as I understand that passage with this passage, it's like Jesus says, listen, if you want to have that full life, let me sustain you. Let me be your sustenance. Let me be the thing that is going to give you the life that you need. So what's the opposite if we don't trust that Jesus is the bread of life, the thing that brings us life, that helps us have that life to the full? What is the opposite? Well, I was thinking about this and I was like, you know what? There are so many things in life that we look to sustain us, to bring us whatever it is, happiness, to bring us fulfillment, to bring us the life that we think that we need, right? And so it's like, do we put our trust that Jesus is going to be the one to sustain us? And if he's the foundation of all that we do in this life, if he's the foundation for how we treat each other, if he's the foundation for how we treat the vulnerable and the marginalized, if he's the foundation for how we approach the resources that we have, the talents that we have, if he's that foundation, he's saying, I will sustain you in all that you need. But if he's not the foundation, then what is? Well, it's anything else that we look for to give us those things. Maybe it's popularity. Maybe it's our image, our how people see us, our beauty, the way that our outward appearance. Maybe it is being the best at a sport, or maybe it's if I can just be the smartest, or if I could just get into this college, whatever it might be. If that becomes the thing that we think is going to sustain us, Jesus said in the passage, he says, like, you can keep eating, but you're going to get hungry again. But if you come to me, I'm the bread that will forever sustain you. And it's almost like if you keep going to those things, they'll never actually fulfill you. They aren't actually going to give you the fulfillment that you want or need. It's like, yeah, so what? You got into that college. Now what? Now what? Yeah, so what? You got all the things that you wanted. Now what? But with Jesus, it's like he will. There's not an emptiness. There's not a bottom of like, oh, now I've run out of my Jesusness. He says, no, I'm the bread of life, and I want to sustain you in all that you have. And they would understand that to be. That, oh, go back to our ancestors. God provided for them. He gave them all that they needed. And Jesus, in you, we have all that we need. Where are you in that? Where are you in that like mindset? Can you trust that? Are you at a place to where you're like, okay, Jesus, I can see that in you I have all that I need. Earlier this week, I went in my closet. I know exactly where all my journals are, my old journals, and I wanted to see what I was writing and thinking when I first became a Christian. And so these were journals back from 2003, I think is when it started, like 2000, maybe the end of 2002, beginning of 2003. And I started flipping through and reading all this stuff I wrote. Super weird. Remember, I always tell you to keep your Summer Quest booklets because you can go back and read the things you write. Do that. And if you have journals, keep them. I mean, I have mine. So this is from 2003, before some of you were born. Before most of you were born. And I'm reading, and this is when I first started following Jesus, and I'm reading the words that I wrote. And there was such a deep desire for me to follow God. I wanted so much more of him. I would cry out in my journal, Jesus, give me more. I want to know you more. I want to follow you. I want to know what this whole Christian life is about. And here I am 17 years later, and I'm like, ever since I made a decision for God to sustain me, when I made a decision to follow Jesus, He's been the bread. He's been the thing that has sustained me. Through good times, through really hard times, through sad times, he has sustained me. And I guess for me, to this point, when he says I'm the bread of life, I'm like, yeah, I know, I trust you. And that's kind of the choice that we all make, right? That's the thing. Do we want to believe that Jesus is the bread of life that will sustain us? My hope is for all of us that yes. That answer is yes. So here's what I want you guys to do. I want you to go in your groups, and I want you to just have this discussion. Talk about what it means. Talk about maybe some of the other things that you're trying to sustain your life with that maybe you're outside of Jesus. And I hope it's a good discussion, and wrestle with this, you guys. It's okay to have a lot of questions. I hope that your discussion as well. I hope you guys are finding these times helpful, and that you can trust each other in this. And so I'm going to go. I don't know if I'm going to eat this or not. I'm afraid to, but I'm also like, that'll be a super great treat because I miss bread so much. I just miss bread. But Jesus is the bread of life, and I do trust him to sustain that for me. All right, guys. Love you. See you soon.